Audience, please settle down in your seats fast. And if you find a phone near your seat, then please return it near the stage committee, if it's as possible. Somebody has lost his phone. I don't know. Borrow? Phone. It's a Samsung phone. If anybody finds it near the seat by mistake, then please let us know.
Yeah, I think the registered participants are here.
Okay.
I think the registered participants are here. So around 70 have registered. इसमें इसमें दिखेगा क्या? इसमें नहीं आएगा। You wanted to see here.
On कर देते, but that should work, sir.
एक बार इसको ऑन करके लगा के दिख जाएगा क्या?
देखते।
लेकिन वो चेंज करेंगे कैसे? चेंज करने के लिए क्या?
चेंज करने के लिए ऐसे ही we have to
चेंज हो कहाँ रहा है?
नहीं सर, इसमें नहीं होगा। ये तो नहीं होगा सर। ये ऑन हुआ? ऑन ही तो नहीं हुआ। ओह सॉरी। बट सारे पेन ड्राइव काज করছে না। मैम ओके।
Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you back to the workshop on Mastering the Art of Publishing, conducted by Professor Angappa Gunasekaran, a globally renowned expert in operations and supply chain management from Penn State University, Harrisburg, USA. This session will guide us through the nuances of publishing impactful research. Before we proceed, we would like to take a moment to express our gratitude to all our partners, collaborators, and well-wishers who have strengthened this journey with their trust and support. Title sponsor PCBL Chemical Limited, Gold sponsor School of Design Thinking, Pataka Group, Silver sponsors KI Wires and Cables, Harmony Foundation, and Damodar Valley Corporation. Co-sponsors SBI, Axis Bank, and WBPDCL. Knowledge partner Service Setu Academics and Primers Books. Other esteemed sponsors GRSE, AON, Vadilal Ice Cream, Vanilla Sky Bakehouse, Flawn Jewelry, 2Yum, Spartan Security Services, Club Amre, Anmol Biscuits, Shubhami Biopharma, Supermode, Coco Twist, and Leora Bell.
We are privileged to welcome Professor Angappa Gunasekaran, Professor of Supply Chain Management at the School of Business Administration, Penn State University, Harrisburg, USA. Professor Gunasekaran has held distinguished leadership roles, including Director of the School of Business Administration at Penn State University, Harrisburg, Dean of the School of Business and Public Administration at California State University, Bakersfield, and Dean of the Charlton College of Business at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. With a PhD in Industrial Engineering and Operations Research from IIT Bombay, he has contributed extensively to academia worldwide, holding positions in the UK, Australia, Finland, India, and Canada. His scholarly impact is remarkable, with over 600 peer reviewed articles, numerous conference presentations across 20 countries, and editorial responsibilities on more than 30 international journals. He is one of the most highly cited scholars in the world, with an H index of 166 and over 116,000 citations, reflecting his immense contributions to research in operations, logistics, and supply chain management, making him one of the most influential voices in global management research.
I would now request Dr. Rohit Singh, Conference Chair, 19th ISDSI Global Conference 2025, to kindly come up on stage and felicitate Professor Angappa Gunasekaran. Thank you, Dr. Singh. Now, we hand over the session to Professor Angappa Gunasekaran for sharing his knowledge and perspective with our scholars and faculty members.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your very generous introduction. Good afternoon to everyone. So you can see the title for my session, Master the Art of Publishing in High Impact Journals. So I'm going to share my own experience since 1982. So when I published my first paper in an Indian journal. So when I was at IIT Mumbai as a PhD student, so I spent about 2 years just doing literature review. And then my advisor or supervisor told, you have already spent 2 out of 3 years. You don't have much time, so you have to start working on a specific problem so that you should be able to complete your PhD and get out of the place. So he got tired of me. And nowadays, with all the digital literature and also the tools available, like WASWeaver, Biblio, Shiny, and other tools. So you should be able to, and also ChatGPT, you should be able to complete the literature review within a few months. So then you can start working on the actual problem. So I'm a kind of old timer. You can see almost 35 years since I completed my PhD. As I said, during the inaugural session, I was a full-time administrator for almost 10.5 years as a dean of 3 public university business schools in the US. So I was completely doing different kind of job than full-time professor or lecturer teaching and doing research. However, during my time as an administrator, I continued to work with my fellow researchers to publish some papers. So when I submitted my first paper as a PhD student in 1982, we received, the first article got accepted in an Indian journal because my supervisor knows the editor of the Journal of Manufacturing Engineering that comes from IIT Delhi. So I was so confident right after that. Then I wrote the second paper and we submitted to an international journal called the International Journal of Production Economics. Nowadays, it has been ranked as one of the top journals in the field of operations management. And we received feedback after a few months saying that even my undergraduate students will write better than what we have written. And then my guide read all the comments. It was, very discouraging. And he said, Guna, we are not going to publish anymore. We are not going to write any more papers and publishing. You should concentrate on completing your PhD thesis so that, you can get out of this place and find a job and go on with your life. So I waited for another couple of years, though I took 5 years for my PhD thesis completion. And then during the sort of end of my PhD period, so we submitted a couple of articles to not so well-known journals in the field, but international journals. So we got accepted. So that gave me sort of confidence, okay, we should be able to publish in international journals. So that was my, the beginning. And of course, the wonderful hosts introduced me generously. So now I have almost 500 journal articles, or with the I-index, about 500 plus articles. So how I have been able to do it? So I would say research is a hard work. A lot of sacrifices, determination. So you should not give up. So anytime if you write a paper and submit to a journal, and that may be desk rejected in the first place, and then sometime it will go through the initial screening to a formal review process, and you will get feedback, and then still you can get rejected. The paper can get rejected, so you should not give up. So take those comments professionally rather than personally, and then address those comments in revising the paper and submit to even a better journal. So that is the process, we have followed, or I have followed. So I have some PowerPoint slides from Elsevier. So I asked some slides, and they have agreed to use the slides prepared by Anthony Newman. So why we are here to explore the evolving landscape of publishing with tools like Gen AI, open science mandates, and digital engagement. As I said, I took almost 2 years to conduct the literature reviews. I go to library and make photocopy, go through all the journals, photocopy the articles, and go through and take notes by hand and so on, and then analyze the literature, synthesize, then come up with some research, new research directions. But nowadays, with all these tools, you should be able to do it within, let's say, 3 months. So you can expect a lot of hurdles or bottlenecks during the process. There is national biases and university biases based on which schools you are from when you submit your paper. If there is, let's say a journal receives a paper from well-known schools like MIT, Harvard, even if the work is substandard or not so good, the perception is there. Okay, they must be good. And then they start receiving, go through the initial screening and then formal review process. They can get published. But if you're submitting a paper from one of the colleges in India, so they look at, oh, this paper comes from India, so it may not have been written well. or it may have some technical drawbacks and so on. But that perception we cannot avoid. The only way we can overcome by producing quality manuscripts. And all first we have to conduct, the quality research. I mean, we cannot just write without conducting quality research. It could be experimental research or theoretical or empirical research. So what I'm saying is we have to overcome a lot of biases, hurdles, in the process. And also, I know many of my own friends, they reject my paper. It's not something, not unusual, usual, but it happens all the time, because if the quality is not there, then they tend to reject the paper. So I have organized the workshop, how to get published, scholarly publishing overview, and what to publish, what not to publish, how to select journals or journal readers, audience carefully, and a typical article structure. I'm sure many of you have already published. You're not just a novice or just starting. So please feel free to share your experience during the course of this session. I want to make it more interactive rather than just going through the PowerPoint slides. That will be, sort of more useful. And a surviving peer review process, and how to leverage social media for disseminating your research. And then we have open access journals. For that, you have to pay a lot of money. And then ethics in conducting and publishing research. And the review and editorial process and your response. So when you receive feedback from reviewers, how to address the comments in revising the paper, and also how to prepare your reply to reviewers or response to reviewers, and how to promote your research using social media. When I started, we did not have all this, social media handlers or Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and so on. So nowadays, I could see many scholars, once they get accepted, they start posting the articles or the information about the acceptance of their article. And promoting your research using social media, open access or not. I know Elsevier, these are some popular publishers, Elsevier, Taylor and Francis, Emerald, and then Wiley, Sage. So they charge heavily, almost $3,000 for open access. It is very expensive, even in the US. We are not ready to pay so much money for an article. So we have to see whether a journal is subscription-based or only open access. So subscription-based model, so you can publish without any payments. And publishing ethics, I know there are many journals, they will say, okay, if you pay for 1 year subscription, so we will publish your articles immediately. So there is no peer review process. Within just a few days, you will get acceptance letter. So we have to be careful, with such journals. Nowadays, I'm sure all over India and also in other countries, they are very careful in scrutinizing, the quality of research and also the peer review process. They even see the submitted date and then revised and accepted. So when you see, okay, submitted on so-and-so, the next day or within few weeks accepted, so that means, they really did not go through the normal peer review process. So you can see the number of, old statistics, peer-reviewed journal growth. It's exponential growth. So that means more and more scholars started publishing their research. And when they see there is a huge demand, the publishers like Elsevier, Taylor and Francis, Emerald, Wiley, Sage, and others, and they are in business. We know that. The publishing companies, they make tons of money. They don't pay for authors. Actually, authors have to pay for open access, and then the editors only are paid some honorarium. The reviewers of papers are not paid. So the cost, whatever the variable cost, is almost nothing actually. So if you look at the profit margin of the publishers, so I have come across, it was about 20 years ago, there was a dispute between universities, state universities in California and the Emerald publishers. So they started using the journal articles already published as textbook because they own the copyrights. Once you publish your articles in their journals with Emerald, and they use the recycle the same articles as book chapters, and they started publishing books and making additional money. And then they have published their annual, whatever financial statement. If you look at, they made $50 million, the revenue, $40 million surplus, only $10 million. Even they, inflated that $10 million. They don't want to say just, we spend only $5 million. As I said, they don't pay for the reviewers. They don't pay for, authors, only the editors. They also paid very small honorarium. So these companies, all the time they come up with new journals. Because of that, you can see the exponential growth of the number of journals in each discipline. Even myself, I launched a journal called the International Journal of Logistics and Systems Management about 25 years ago. It's doing very well. I just started with the one for InterScience. So recently I launched a journal called the International Journal of Generative Artificial Intelligence in Business, because I started working on that topic. So I thought there is a gap, we need a dedicated sort of journal focusing on generative AI in business. The inaugural issue will be published within a month. So I have done my work by the end of August because they have shortage of staff, whatever it is, they delayed. I'm not happy, but I had to still live with them. So when I proposed a journal in about 25 years ago, I took almost 2 months to do research. So what are the journals in the field? And then I had to write a proposal using the template given by the publisher to have an ideal editorial board, and also the authors who are going to submit papers and so on. About 4 months ago, when I thought of launching a journal for generative AI in business, I took only 2 days. So I'm sure how I did it, thanks to ChatGPT. So it came up with whatever the proposal using the template for the particular publisher. So it took only 2 days, and the president of the company approved within few minutes. So you can see, with all the tools, what I'm saying is with all the tools available, as I said, including Biblio, Shiny, WasWeaver, and other tools. So we should be able to expedite the research process. And there are so many publishers. So trends in publishing, so mostly electronic nowadays. Even if you go to library, so you only see the books, and that too, outdated. Some handbooks, manuals, and so on. So nowadays, we have access to the digital journals through e-access. And also, I remember after my PhD, I spent a couple of years in Canada, so I was not successful for some reasons. Then I moved to Finland as a postdoctoral fellow. It was in 1995. Though Finland is a small country and they are very generous when it comes to supporting research. So, and even with a small university in Finland, the library was very good because they have access to all the journals. So they have enough funding. Those days, printed copy of journals. Then I go to library every day and photocopy the articles and then read and write articles and also conduct empirical or develop mathematical models and so on. So it took a lot of time. And with the electronic, sort of literature and also submission process. So I had to print the paper and then send by post. It will take 1 week, wherever it goes. And then the editor will take a couple of weeks and then send a written acknowledgement letter. And I don't know how long the editor will take time to send the paper to a physical copy, printed copy of the paper to reviewers. So the process, took almost 6 months, sometime even 1 year. But nowadays, everything electronic. You submit your articles online, and they should be able to get back to you within a few days or a week about the initial screening, whether your article has passed the initial screening or desk rejected. So then you should be able to, go to another journal. So that saves a lot of time. And the experimentation with the new publishing models, the open access. One thing, so I launched several journals afterwards, and almost 10 journals are now open access. So we have made 5 journals only open access. So I thought we are not going to get any articles because we already accepted many articles. So that will be enough for publishing or the issues for next 2 years. So each journal has 12 issues per year, so monthly publication. So I thought we are not going to get any articles because they have to pay $1,600 per article. And then after a while, I realized many that too from India. So that tells, they are ready to pay $1,600 per article for only open access journals. And the manuscript flow is controlled by, everything is done by online portals like Scholar One, Manuscript Central, and other online portals. And you can even see the status of your article. That is the visibility. In supply chain, we say the visibility of the supply chain. So you can say what is the status of your article. Springer has many journals, as you know, and they even tell you how many reviewers have been assigned and how many responses they receive, and when the editor is going to more or less make a decision on your paper. So why to publish and what to publish? So I'm sure you know all these things. As a PhD scholar, so you want to get your PhD in a timely manner, and also with not just PhD, with some journal articles in according to ABDC list or FT 50 or the high impact journals. Get funding. So if you want to apply for state or federal central government funding, so they expect not only PhD, but also you must have demonstrated knowledge or research capital in the field by publishing, or you have already received grants and so on, and get promoted from lecturer to assistant professor, from assistant professor to associate and full professor. In the US, I'm sure here also, I think here much more demanding than the universities in the US. And one of my colleagues got promoted, so with only 200 citations, according to Google Scholar. But I know when I worked with a master's student, at that time I was in Great Britain at Brunel University as a senior lecturer. So I used to work with a lot of MSc, 1-year MSc programs they had, and I worked with the MSc students out of 1-year program, 3-month project. And one student, of course, I have published with many of my students. One student, he came from Ahmedabad, and he came to me because he's also from India. I'm from India. Okay, Professor, I want to do my dissertation work with you. So can you suggest a problem? At that time, supply chain was becoming popular. I said, why not we work on supply chain management? It's a new field. Okay, so when you work in the area of new field or topics, so it will be well received. So they don't look at very closely the research methodology and so on. Basically, they look at the topic and also the ideas. So as you know, performance measures and metrics are the basic managerial tool, for any managers to make decisions where we are right now, where we want to be, and we have to measure how we perform. And then I have worked already on performance measures and metrics in a traditional manufacturing environment or service environment, not in supply chain management. I thought if we come up with the performance measures and metrics for a supply chain environment, it will be well received. So the student, I asked the student to collect literature on performance measures and metrics in traditional manufacturing and service environment. And then I asked him to look at the characteristics of a supply chain management, how we can develop and effectively manage a supply chain. And then we came up with additional new performance measures and metrics based on the unique characteristics of a supply chain. Okay, so if you send the paper, it will be a theoretical framework for measuring performance in a supply chain environment. So we thought of how we can strengthen the paper by validating the framework with the case examples. So we collected some case examples in order to back up the theoretical framework we have developed. So we have published a 3-month project, and he went to, he developed a questionnaire and distributed about 50 companies in Great Britain. We received only 25 responses. 25 responses is almost nothing. They expect about 150 to 200 responses, and also we had to use the SPSS or statistical tool to analyze. And then we wrote a paper, and because of the new idea. So what I'm saying is, the research methodology is one thing. It should be comprehensive. If you come up with the innovative, sort of idea, or come up with a new framework or new mathematical model for solving the problems of emerging manufacturing or service environment, such as supply chain or generative AI-driven supply chain or service environment. So we have published 3 articles, received 7,500 citations. An MSc student, 1-year MSc program, 3-month project, 3 journal articles, 7,500 citations, even many full professors in the US. As I said, a professor, one is promoted from associate to full professor with the 250 citations. With the MSc student, did not have much experience with doing research. So how we were able to do it? It is not the methodology I have already shared with you, only 25 to 30 responses. It is the idea, innovative idea. And whoever writes about performance measures and metrics in a supply chain or any new environment, so they have been able to cite our papers. So that's just, we had to start with the right research project. So fulfill institutional and funding mandates, like Plan S, NIH, this is biased towards, Europe and the US, and contribute to sustainable development goals. We have 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and societal impact. So one more thing, whenever I write or I wrote something, I don't go for recycling. I don't look for any incremental changes, making minor changes to a mathematical formula and then, come up with a new. No, I want to say, when someone reads my paper, they should see, oh, I never thought, this perspective. This is very interesting. So I would like to share, it was about 30 years ago, I was reading the importance of the integration between marketing and production. So they had to work together. The marketing department or the marketing people will tell, the demand for what are the types of products the company has to produce, the demand for each of the products, then likely revenue that can be generated, or sales, and so on. There are many papers to say like that, okay, we have to integrate. At the strategic level, it's okay. Strategic level means that two functions, people have to work together by exchanging the information and so on, what we have in production, and then the marketing department, what is the demand from the market and so on. But there is no mathematical model for making more precise decision by integrating the marketing and the production functions. Then I developed a mathematical model only 1 week. It's a deterministic model, not stochastic, probabilistic model. It's a deterministic model. So I read Flip Kotler's marketing book and how one can estimate the demand using various marketing parameters, or you can say marketing mix. And then we used that marketing mix to estimate the demand. And then we have used that demand as input to the production batch size optimization. So earlier we used to assume the demand is given deterministic, but the demand is not given. It was influenced or determined by the marketing people or marketing function. And I took only 1 week to write the paper. I have used hypothetical data to validate the mathematical model, submitted to one of the top journals called Management Science. In operations management, it is one of the top journals. When I submitted, and I thought it will be desk rejected after reading the poor writing of my paper. And Professor Howley at Stanford University, he was so kind. Whatever he thought, okay, the idea may be new. So then he sent to 2 reviewers, and both reviewers, one reviewer suggested major revision. The other reviewer was so critical, he rejected. And then the editor-in-chief at the time, Professor Howley, rejected the paper. Sorry, Guna, I cannot move forward. And I took only 1 week. So nowadays, or even many years ago, to write a paper for management science or operations research, so they take 6 months to write the paper. So though the mathematical model I developed was new and or novel, but I did not present it very well. So it has got rejected. So the presentation is important equally. So the ideas and the presentation. And as I said, I never look for recycling. So I don't want to waste my time by recycling. So as an editor myself, whenever I received a paper, I look at, I have checklist, okay, I look at the title, whether the title is too long or too short or is precise to reflect the content of the paper. So I have seen some typos in the title. So once you see a typo or an error in the title, so it won't take much time to reject the paper. It's easy. And then they don't put the page numbers, and also they use the same font size without highlighting the main section and also subsection titles and so on. You cannot make any difference because they say, oh, it is there, just the reviewer can read and understand. And also then I read abstract, whether the abstract has been written as an abstract, and then go to conclusions, whether the same abstract has been repeated in the conclusions. I mean, conclusions should be based on the research we have done, not what we wrote in the abstract. And also the overall structure, and then the references. So when I see, a paper has cited the latest reference, let's say 10 years ago, I will simply reject, because I have seen many articles, not now, many years ago, but nowadays, our scholars in India, they have access to all the latest literature, in real time, actually, real time. So about 15, 20 years ago, when I see they cited only 10 years old references, then I simply reject that paper. And even if you go through the paper, you will see many research, advanced research has been done afterwards. So these are the reasons for scholars, and however editors, reviewers, and the research community consider these reasons when assessing your work. Don't consider these reasons when assessing your work. The content counts. So as I said, we have national biases and the school or university biases, all those things. But we should not, stop writing. So we always seek for becoming better in writing, and we should not take it, whatever the comments we receive, as personal, but rather professional. So as I said, when we received our first paper, from an international journal, even my undergraduate students will write better. So my supervisor has got very upset. Then he said, we are not going to write any more papers. But that has changed. Yeah, so one more thing, we have to not only go doing good research and writing good manuscript, but also you have to, look at the networking of scholars in your field. So for that, you have to attend conferences. You should not like this one. So where you can meet, your fellow scholars, and also get feedback based on whatever the work in progress research you have done or finished papers. And also there will be some special issues of journals as post-conference publications, so where you can publish your papers fairly, easily. So I used to attend, many conferences when I was in Finland. As I said, Finland is a small country at that time, not many foreigners in the city where we only 2 people at the time. And whenever I asked money to attend conferences all over the globe, they said, oh, no problem, go. If you have a paper, because they don't write papers. So if you write a paper, I know Professor knows about, Finland. She spent a lot of time. And I have attended 5 conferences around the globe, almost 20 conferences fully paid. Whenever I attend conferences, I will make sure I meet my fellow scholars in the field, and also I meet some editors. So that is very important. Networking is very important. So I would like to share with you, because that will be interesting rather than going through the PowerPoint slides. You will have a copy of the slides. When I started my work as a postdoctoral fellow in Finland, I wrote a review paper on flexible manufacturing systems in my area, operations management. At that time, FMS, flexible manufacturing system, was becoming very popular. So I thought of writing a review paper. So review paper always received, more citations than other, empirical or mathematical modeling papers. So I wrote quick. How I did, I took the abstract from each paper and I copied. So somehow of course I edited. It's about 80 pages, 80-page review paper. And I submitted to European Journal of Operational Research. In our field, it is one of the top 10 journals. At that time, Professor Alan Mercer from Lancaster University in Great Britain was the editor-in-chief. And I submitted as an invited review. So those days, it was easy to publish review paper as invited paper. And within a month, he accepted, and I received the proofs. I checked, and I was so elated, and I shared that good news with my colleagues, Finnish colleagues, and they were so happy because this guy came within 6 months. He was able to get an acceptance letter in European Journal of Operational Research. They extended my contract for another 6 months. After 2 months, I received a letter from Professor Alan Mercer saying that, Guna, we have received 2 reviewers' feedback. Both are very critical. It should be rejected. Oh my God. So I already got all the benefits, extended my contract and so on. And I could not sleep. So how I'm going to, tell that this paper got rejected after, receiving acceptance letter, even galley proofs, checking proofs and so on. And then I don't know what to do. Then I wrote to Professor Alan Mercer saying that this is not acceptable because I have already, shared the acceptance letter and got my contract extended and so on. He said, I can't do much, so that both reviewers are very critical because they have written, comments almost 3 pages. And then what to do? Even I called the managing director of Elsevier. European Journal is published, European Journal of Operational Research is published by Elsevier. So Gerard, I know the managing editor of Elsevier. So I called him. So what Alan is doing is not correct. I explained to him. So I'm in a very awkward situation. He accepted the paper, now he's rejecting. So then he said, okay, Guna, I will talk to Alan and see what I can do. But I cannot do much. He's the editor-in-chief and also senior professor in Great Britain. And also Lancaster University is known for research in operational research. And then he came to me saying that, I'm sorry, Alan does not want to, change his decision. So what to do? So rather than fighting, then there was a conference close to Christmas like this in England, in Keele University. Then I contacted 3 journal editors. So I want to come and see, just to say hello during just close to Christmas to say hello. And I met Alan Mercer and at Lancaster University. And he took me for Christmas lunch, and very friendly. And then we talked. Then I asked him at the end of the lunch, Alan, is it okay if I revise? I will address all the comments. If I revise the paper and resubmit, is it okay? Oh, no problem, Guna. Please go ahead. And of course, I revised the paper and then eventually got it published. So I did not tell my colleagues, Finnish colleagues, until I got the second time acceptance letter. So it took about 3 months, but that developed a confidence, so how to face, any critical comments or challenges. Of course, some of my articles are retracted. I'm not saying, because when you work with the other scholars and due to some oversights, those things happen. Otherwise, if we don't walk on the road, then you will never go out. So, to avoid any accidents and so on. And then during the same visit, I met Brian Porter. He was the editor-in-chief of the International Journal of System Science. And then a couple of more editors. I met John Middle. He was the editor of the International Journal of Protection Research, and Graham Rand, the editor of Journal of Operational Research Society, and Robert Fields, he was the editor of the International Journal of Forecasting. In one trip, I just went, I took the train, whatever, those days, if it is now, I will hesitate to do that. So I was able to meet and develop the network, and that helped actually to get a chance to revise and resubmit. They also appreciated this guy is really keen, to do something. So he's not just closing his eyes or mind, just doing and submitting off the hand, and whatever it comes, let us accept and move forward. So I was not like that. I was, very persistent to make sure that even if it takes 3 revisions to, get the acceptance letter. So publishing is one of the necessary steps embedded in the scientific research process. I'm sure many of you have done a lot of research. Some you may not have even presented or published in journals. So as long as you don't publish or present your papers, so how other people will come to know? So if you really want to disseminate your research results or findings, then you have to present your papers and publish in peer-reviewed journals. Conference proceedings, they have limited distribution. So it will receive only limited citations for your conference proceedings articles. If you publish in well-known journals, it will be highly cited. And that too published by the famous publishers like Elsevier, Taylor and Francis, Emerald, Wiley, Sage, and so on. And it is also necessary for graduation and career progression. So I already said new and original results or methods. We don't want to recycle or reinvent. So making a small change or eliminating one of the constraints and do the, whatever the experimental analysis and so on. So that will not fly. And whenever I wrote something, I want to make sure that whenever others read, they see something new. Not just for the sake of new, but also should be useful for practice or advancing the theory. And reviews or summaries of particular subject. So review articles are highly cited, but nowadays I receive many review articles using Biblio, Shiny, Wasviewer, and we have the tendency to reject immediately because they say that SLR, systematic literature review, but you don't see anything. Just by looking at the results they have obtained from the literature review using Wasviewer or Biblio, Shiny, no use. How many papers are published by different in different countries by different researchers, and the citations, why we should bother all those things. So what we had to do, we had to go through the paper critically and bring out some shortcomings of each of the papers, and what is the gap between theory and practice. So how we can overcome the gap, come up with the new mathematical models or theoretical framework or empirical analysis. So that should be our task. It's not just okay, what percentage of papers published by or published in different countries, published by different researchers, the citations, and so on. So whenever I wrote, many of my review articles are highly cited right from the beginning, from that article onwards, the review paper on flexible manufacturing system. And I learned, so I wrote many review articles. It's a systematic literature review. Even to come up with the criteria for classifying the literature on a particular topic. So what are the criteria we have to use? So I have used those criteria to review each of the papers critically in order to identify the gaps between theory and practice, and then suggest future research directions. So those articles were well received. I mean, 2,000, 3,000 citations. Even the future research directions, it is not just to blindly you say, oh, this is the gap, this can be done. But we have used the thought process, the mental process to come up with how we can reduce the gap between theory and practice, not just by eliminating some of the assumptions, but thinking outside the box, so that that will be help or advance the theory and practice in a particular field or on a particular topic. So that received a good number of citations. Manuscripts that advance the knowledge and understanding in a certain scientific field. What not to publish, reports of no scientific interest. I receive many papers. I'm looking after many journals. So I started in 25 years ago with one. So at least 10 Scopus indexed journals I'm looking after. We started with 4 issues per year in the beginning, but nowadays 12 issues. And we are really overwhelmed by the manuscript, the volume of manuscript in flow. So I just look at each paper, whether it is the recycling or reinventing and poorly structured, and there are a lot of typos, and the references are not cited as per the format of the journal, and I look at the references, whether they are current or outdated. So you look at all those things. I have seen main section with, okay, that's one of the main sections in a paper, and they write about small paragraph. Why you need a main section for that? And also some papers, the conclusions come 2-3 sections before conclusions. So conclusions section should be the last one. So these are the some small things. And also whenever they write references, they miss comma, period, the volume number, issue number, and they are not consistent format. It's not clean manuscript. You look at the tables, nobody can understand. There is a huge space between the lines. Why you need compact? Though they are going to typeset, but still the reviewers going to read your paper. And then the figures, you cannot make out, small font size within the the box when they present conceptual model or framework. So these are the things you may wonder, after publishing 600 articles, but I still look at even period, comma, that tells whether a scholar is sincere, committed, and serious about your research. If I see some of those things. Oh, this scholar is just doing something and submitting and wasting our time. I mean, as an editor-in-chief, and I don't want to waste my reviewers' time. And sometime when I forward that one to my reviewers, they will say, why Guna, knowing that this paper cannot even cut, he should have just rejected, and he's forwarding me to, to review the paper. And they will stop, accepting the future reviews. There are so many things. The manuscript should be clean. The format, as I said, the margin and the quality of the tables, the figures, the way we cite references, and then they just use several subsections without properly numbering them. So without properly numbering them, so how we can follow the flow? So these are the things, we have to look at when we prepare manuscripts. I used to spend a lot of time because I have accepted a lot of papers from India, especially from PhD scholars. They should start publishing in an international journal so that they will be motivated, and then they can move on to the next level of journals. Out-of-date work, as I said already, and duplications of previously published works. This is a danger. So nowadays with the Turnitin or the publishers, they have their own plagiarism, deduction or whatever software. So they will tell me when I receive a paper, it says, okay, overlapping 20%. If we see 20%, then I will look at the type of manuscript. So it's a review paper or empirical analysis, mathematical model. If it is a review paper, we can expect 20% overlapping, not for empirical research or multiple case studies or a mathematical modeling paper. So in that case, we simply reject the paper during the desk review. Incorrect and unacceptable conclusions. As I said, many, they repeat what they wrote in the abstract, a conclusion. So conclusion should be different based on the research we have conducted, the analysis of results, and then managerial and theoretical implications. And based on that, we should conclude. I have seen conclusion section only 10 lines. That is not adequate, So the conclusions should be comprehensive. You can just summarize the unique contributions of your research or paper. And then another subsection could be limitations of your research. And then the third subsection should be future research directions. And if you are submitting a paper, let us say, to Journal of Marketing Research, and if they don't find any single references from JMR, the editor will simply reject the paper. So you have to include at least 4 to 6 references where you are going to, to which journal you are going to submit your manuscript. So you need a strong, effective manuscript to present your contributions to the scientific community. Yeah, good manuscript has good content. Of course, we have to select the right topic, first of all. That's the beginning. So not the topic already outdated. So like I said, so when I started reading sort of the evolution of operations management, supply chain was becoming popular. And whatever we do on supply chain management will be useful. So that was the beginning. And we thought useful and also exciting because the field or the topic was not explored adequately. And as a good presentation of the data, clear and logically constructed. So whenever we write papers, we are not writing for ourselves because we know the field. the topic, because we have been working for, every day 10 hours, whatever it is, as a scholar. And for many years, we know in and out of the topic, but we are writing for others. So whatever you have, the thought process in your mind or the message you would like to convey, so it will take time to put it in writing. So that is a saying, if you want to write a paper 60 pages, you can write within 1 week. The same 60 pages, let's say 30 pages, it will take 3 months. The same 30, page paper in 15 pages take, on a 5 to 6 months. So I think it's a kind of meditation. So when you write papers, you think that you're writing for others, and whatever the message you have in your mind, so how you can, translate down into writing. What is a strong manuscript? I already said, a novel, clear, useful, and exciting message, presented and constructed in a logical manner. Reviewers and editors can grasp the scientific significance easily. So though I handle thousands of papers, but every paper, I know it takes time, because the publisher, relies on me, and even accepting one poor quality paper will spoil the reputation of, the journal. So I want to make sure, sometimes I return the papers even 10 times, because I don't want to, reject. I want to help the scholars 10 times. So imagine when you are managing over a dozen journals and you receive every day, and always 1,000 manuscripts I had to handle. So, but still, I have been able, because I don't want to just accept because I don't have time. So I want to make sure each and every paper meets the minimum standards. And editors and reviewers are all busy scientists. As you know, though I was, I have been editor, but I was also school dean. I had 2,200 students in both undergraduate and graduate programs, 50 faculty, and I had to recruit students, and I had to look after the retention, accreditation, and the community engagement. So many things, I have to do it. But despite that, still, I have been able. I have been trying to help the scholars so that they can also reach their full potential. So it is in your hand how you make it easy for reviewers and editors to follow your contribution. Nowadays, with the email, even social media, LinkedIn, and so on, you should be able to contact the editors with the draft paper, or you don't want to share your draft paper because someone might copy or whatever it is, and you can just send the title and abstract and ask whether, or just the extended abstract, and ask the editor whether this paper comes under the scope of your journal or not. So I am doing it nowadays. So I will send the full manuscript to the editor. So is this okay? Or they will say, no, Guna, it does not come under it is okay. It comes on the periphery of the scope of the journal, not exactly under the scope of the journal. So therefore, I cannot proceed. So he may suggest, or she may suggest some other journal. How to get your article published before you start writing? We have to be strategic, as I think I already shared with you. And there is more than Google. Nowadays, of course, we have ChatGPT. But one thing I noticed, of course, I also use ChatGPT for my talk or for my communication with my colleagues. But now as a faculty, I just use for editing my emails and so on. So we can use ChatGPT for conducting literature review, for editing papers, the language editing, and so on. Of course, we have Grammarly and other tools to do that. But we have the tendency to go to immediately, chat GPT, they ask for, okay, do this for me. But that's not the right approach. We are not going to learn anything. So I have seen, many papers you can see prepared using chat GPT. So if you ask any questions, in-depth questions, the authors may not be able to answer. And I just would like to share with you for my International Journal of Industrial and Systems Engineering, because I'm from Industrial and Systems Engineering. So we have only top journals like the IEEE transactions that comes from the US, and also Computers and Industrial Engineering from Elsevier. So I thought, if it's a big field, Industrial and Systems Engineering, if we come up with a journal, so that will encourage not only top tier researchers, so-called top tier, and then we can encourage others. Then 20 years ago, I launched the International Journal of Industrial and Systems Engineering. About 5 years ago, I received, 4 to 5 years ago, I received 22 papers from a college in Maharashtra. First article, I looked at it, I liked, so very comprehensive, technically with all the charts nicely. But I looked at the references, why only conference papers? And none of them from industrial engineering, field or topics. So I accepted that article because it is well done. So when you look at the scientific content, it was great. Then when I looked at other papers, similar, exactly similar. I mean, there is no connection with the industrial and systems engineering. They used entropy theory and some system dynamics. It's okay. System dynamics modeling is okay, but not real industrial engineering. So within no time, within an hour, I rejected 22 papers because they have used a third party, perhaps, agent to write the papers. So you can see that using, chat GPT or one of the other tools. So learn on what online resources, I'm sure you know it. And the researchers have difficulties in identifying correct search terms. Searches are often unsuccessful. Yeah, whenever we write papers, the keywords are important. The keywords should not be different from what, the content. So then, your paper will not be used and cited. So it's very important. The keywords are very important. Yeah. Strategic information sharing. I don't want to go through, I'm sure. So you're well advanced in gathering information and using all the advanced tools, including chat GPT. Questions to answer before you write. Is it new and interesting? So it may be new for you, but not for others. So whenever you start the beginning of your PhD thesis research, and you should not go back to conducting literature review 10 years beyond. Just do the literature for the past 10 years and even closely for the past 5 years, so that you can keep the research current. And you can ask, is it a current hot topic? Like nowadays in my field, our field, like generative AI in logistics and supply chain management. And also sustainability or green, circular economy, sustainability in logistics and supply chain, blockchain technologies, and digital twins, the Internet of Things. So all these topics are current. The generative AI is the hottest topic. Have you provided solutions to some difficult problems? It's not just, you reinvent, as I said, recycle. So you define the problem. That problem should be of significance, and then provide solutions for the problems. And then ask yourself, are you ready to publish at this point? There are different types of articles. And identifying the right home. So yeah, this is you don't want to waste your time, So I have developed mathematical oriented manuscripts, and when I submitted to journals, they only encourage empirical research, multiple case studies, and conceptual frameworks. So they reject outright. And I should have submitted those papers to mathematical oriented journals such as Management Science, Operations Research, European Journal of Operational Research, Journal of Operational Research Society, and so on. So they should have at least made through the initial screening and also perhaps into formal review process. Is the journal peer-reviewed to the right level? So as I said, there are many journals that ask for subscription or article processing cost, and they publish it within no time, send you the acceptance letter within few hours. So nowadays, the promotion committee, so they look at when you submitted the manuscript, sometimes they even ask for the reviewers' feedback, and when you have received the reviewers' feedback, and also when you submitted the revised manuscripts, and whether the revised manuscript has been sent it to the same reviewers, and when you got the final acceptance, they look at the total review process in order to develop confidence into the editorial process, and then the final acceptance as well as the quality of the paper. And then you can look at the impact factor of journals. Nowadays, they publish it, the journal information page. You should be able to see. And there are also like a SIMAGO and other, the ranking like ABDC list, FT50, and then University of Texas, Dallas list of journals and so on. So you can look at, the like guide for aim and scope of the journal, and then accepted type of articles. You can see already published articles on readership and current hot topic and so on. These are the bibliometric indicators. So you can see the impact factor. So they see the citations over 2 years for a particular journal, and then how many articles they have published. So that should give you that should give the impact factor. And the ethics is very important nowadays. As I said, even some of my articles retracted, and I had to go through some sleepless nights. So recently, about 2 years ago, one of my articles was retracted by Annals of Operations Research, though I published already 10 or 15 articles in that journal. And then I contacted the editor-in-chief, why? And they said, the guest editor of the special issue where our article got accepted did not follow the due process. I said, it's not my problem. You have appointed that individual as the guest editor, and why you have selected, that sort of guest editor. In fact, Springer. Springer is the publisher of Annals of Operations Research. So they retracted all the 23 articles published in that special issue, not just our article. So 60 authors were affected. I mean, retraction is a social taboo, so once it's retracted and, you have to answer to your dean and what is going on, your head of the department and so on. So why it has been retracted and so on. And I try to sort of justify it's not my fault, whatever, done by the guest editor, but they look for, easy way to get out, these publishers. So they just want to retract all the articles. And then Retraction Watch in the US, I know we have one in India Retraction Watch. And in the US also we have one. And since I'm from nearby, New Jersey, the Retraction Watch headquarters is in New Jersey. One of the staff members called, sent me an email, Guna, I want to talk to you about the retraction of all the articles in that or in that journal or special issue by Springer. And I cannot say no. Of course, many say, they don't even respond. Then they will say, we contacted so-and-so, did not respond. So that will create some challenges because I'm trying to hide something. And then I said, yes, I would be happy to, have a chat with you. And then I took 1 day because I don't want to give immediately because I want to prepare, my rebuttal response. And then I talked to her, and also I followed up with a detailed email based on the questions she asked, and the Retraction Watch published. So I was so happy to see many supported, almost except one, there were about 30, 40 responses they have supported. So I said, it is none of our faults. It is the fault of the guest editor. And the guest editor, I don't know where he is right now. And the same thing happened with another Springer journal. It's called Operations Management Review. So in that special issue, almost 50 articles were retracted. So what I'm saying, the retraction is painful. So we try to avoid under any circumstances, because you have to spend sleepless nights and how you are going to get out of that. So retraction has been viewed as bad. So some cases, yes, we cannot avoid. So I would suggest, so make sure there is no much overlapping and it should be your own work. And then use one of the plagiarism, software like Turnitin or Plage, Safe Plage, and so on. In fact, publishers have their own, tools for telling what is the percentage of overlapping. And then sometime I download the sort of the outcome of those Turnitin or plagiarism, other plagiarism software, then send it to authors. So please, address these things before I forward it to the reviewers. So anyway, I would like to, how much time I have? Sorry? Yeah, let's make it for Q&A. Yeah. Sorry, I thought of making it more interactive.
Sir, I'm Dr. Dubey, and wonderful talk, a lot of clarification, and the way anecdotally you presented, it was fabulous to listen to you.
Thank you.
My question is that the new area, emerging technology like generative AI, and in this point in time, I'm a researcher in that area, and you get more negatives if you conduct any survey or collect any data. more negatives you get than the positives, because like any new technology, there are a lot of fear of unknown. And so how to get the right kind of data in such field?
About the use
Impact of generative AI, for example, in, let's say, supply chain.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Dubey. Yes, I'm with you. Garbage goes in, garbage comes out. That's what we say, you know. So the quality of the data is very important, especially, you know, Gen AI in logistics and supply management. And as we know, Chat GPT uses publicly available information, not any specific companies or specific companies' supply chains. So in that case, we should spend more time in collecting the right data so that whatever the outcome from Chat GPT will be of, you know, fair representative of a particular supply chain. So that's what I said. Garbage goes in, garbage comes out. Even so, when I did some research on enterprise resource planning, so yeah, ERP is good, like PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, Bond, Oracle, and so on. So they help integrating the various functions. But the data we collect and the input to the ERP system is not, you know, accurate, or we are not collecting the right data. You know, because we have centralized the huge database, we can collect A to Z data. At the end of the day, or we may not use even 5% of the data. It's a waste of time or resources collecting data, analyzing the data, and then we don't use even 5% of the data. So I remember one of the companies in, Great Britain, they had before ERP 17 legacy systems. And to maintain the 17 legacy systems, there will be at least 5 or 6 full-time IT engineers. And they produced only one chart. They did not use that chart also. Then they, you know, moved to one of the ERP systems. So what I'm saying is, you know, the quality of the data. So you may tell that, oh, if you are working in healthcare, we may not be able to get, you know, the data what we need. So that will be a challenge, actually. But there are some organizations, like Association of, you know, medical hospitals and so on. They may be able to share some of the data without revealing the confidentiality or the identity of patients and so on. So that data can be utilized, or we can even generate the data. But once again, you know, when we generate data, they are hypothetical data. So if you really want to use the Chat GPT or any generative AI, so we need to make sure the data we collect is a representative of the problem or situation.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So let's say, you know, I want to, of course, there are software companies, they develop tailor-made AI for specific, you know, manufacturing company or service environment and so on. They develop algorithms and so on. Any follow-up question, please?
So the follow-up question was that this generative AI, you know, it can generate a lot of synthetic data.
Yeah.
It can generate. Now I'm using that synthetic data to simulate something. You know, maybe understand the behavior of, let's say, any part of the organization. See, we are all social scientists. Management students are all social scientists. So I want to look at the how. Suppose my using the synthetic data, will my learning improves? If that improves, then possibly will it be a subject for a good research paper? Will it lead to from practice to, let's say, a theory?
Yes, my answer is yes. Because recently I have attended a presentation. They developed large language models, similar to Gen AI for power distribution system and fault detection along the transmission lines. And they were not able to collect data. The power stations, generating companies, they don't want to share the data because the data is a treasure for them. And then the PhD student, what he did, he generated, data just to see how his system learns, and then provides some useful information for making decisions along the line you have explained. So yeah, he developed a hypothetical data, but he tested also the data, whether it has validity, and he came up with some algorithms to improve the reliability of the data he generated.
Yeah, obviously, the impact has to be tested.
Yes.
I might have used the synthetic data, but ultimately what impact it has made on that area of inquiry, that needs to be tested. And that could be a good subject of an article.
Yes, of course. Yes. Yeah, even I asked the same question. So why you have not collected data from the actual power companies? And then that will be more useful rather than the data you are generating. But the student explained the same the way I have explained, because it is very difficult to collect data. They don't want to give. However, he said he's going to try, but he generated hypothetical data, and that data has been validated for its reliability and so on. And then he was able to demonstrate how to detect the fault locations along the transmission lines in a power distribution.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, sir, good afternoon.
Yes.
This side, sir, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
I am Dr. Amitava Ghosh. Since I was listening to your deliberation, and the last the question, empirical data collection in case of management science is becoming difficult, right? Because the respondent, they are not bothered what study you are doing, how their data is going to affect your study or findings. They are not bothered, right? First of all, it is very difficult to get the at least 200, 300 data. And second is, as you said, that if you generate data, what will be the validity of that data? And when you write that information into the the manuscript that you generated the data, and whether it will be accepted by the editor or not, we do not know. So probably that will be too risky.
They will not accept.
Yeah, they will not accept. So they will not accept.
Yeah.
So second thing is that the looking into the consideration of the primary data, or the data collection constraint. Can we have some alternative? Can we develop some article based on the secondary, the data available in the archives? So if it is possible, how do you do that?
Yes.
If you can throw some
Thank
light.
you, Professor Ghosh. It's a very good question, actually. I have come across several, papers. They have used some algorithms, I'm not familiar, to generate data. But that data is equally good. Even if you have sent out questionnaire, we have different customers, from primary sources or whatever. And they came up with the data and they validated, whatever the hypothesis, and it's well done. But if you submit a manuscript, okay, we have generated data and validated, so that will not fly. And they will ask for, the demographic analysis. So what we are going to do? Are we going to misrepresent the demographic analysis? So I think we will be in trouble. Instead of generating data using algorithms, we will be better off using secondary sources. So that will be acceptable than generating, though they have high validity, but still, it is generated by the computer.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I'm Rohit. So my question was like someone asked about that synthetic data, right? So I think Google took around 10 years to become Google, and this ChatGPT will also take its own time to become the grand ChatGPT when the synthetic data will tell you everything. Right now, if I process that data, maybe the reliability and validity is coming wrong, but at one day it will come right.
Absolutely.
Right. Then how we are going to detect what is right, wrong, which paper to accept or not? This is what, as an editor's point of view, my question to you.
Thank you, Professor Rohit Singh. We are still having the traditional mindset. The editors, of course, most of the editors, like me. So okay, great. If you say you have used the Chat GPT, so then the negative perception, starts. So yeah. But I know there are many submissions used Chat GPT. 90%, even my students. So I gave a case study project. It's a final project, 30% of the total grade. So 30% is a lot. And then a couple of students, they did not do anything. They have not submitted the proposal, and they did not even submit the final project report within the timeline. And then they said, Professor, I wrongly, I could not upload. Of course, they say all the excuses. And then, okay, can I submit tomorrow? I said, yes. Within one day, they used the Chat GPT and wrote the project report. So, what I'm going to do, how I'm going to check, So am I going to give 0? So I said, it's a late project. Okay, I can give 60%, whatever it is, just for using Chat GPT. So yes, we have to, we cannot say no, not to use Chat GPT, but we have to come up with whatever the rubrics, the assessment, how we are going to evaluate, and we have to inform the students well in advance. So about research, we are a little, how to say, indeterminate. Indeterminate means we are okay, as if we want to be careful, but not too careful about, in particular about the use of Chat GPT. Everybody is using Chat GPT. Yeah. So what I would suggest, what I have been doing, I prepare anything draft. It may be a quick draft in my own language, whatever, whether it is well written or not. I put the ideas and ask, Chat GPT to edit. So it does a good job. And then you can see, your work has kind of improved. Our presentation has improved a lot, but the content is the same.
Sir, I got a question for you.
Yes.
This is Professor Shantanu from Techno India. Basically, the researchers are not only using ChatGPT, there are other generative AI tools that they are using for generating data, for analysis, for synthesizing of data, and even for the interpretation of the data. So now there are around 20 AI tools, more than that, available in the market for statistical analysis, for literature review, for synthesizing of the data, even for for generating a questionnaire based on a topic, even to identify a research gap, and even to generate artificial data based on the framed questionnaire. So basically, these 20 AI tools which is available in the market, which makes the job simpler for the researcher. But when we go for any empirical research, we find that it's a uphill task collecting genuine data, because the respondents are half-heartedly giving the responses. especially the primary data. The secondary data, obviously, we can do a fact checking. But as far as the primary data is concerned, if the data is being provided half-heartedly by the respondent or by the target respondent, and it impact the analysis, because if your data is not proper, your analysis will also not be correct. So how to cross-check, how to verify, and how to validate the data and the questionnaire both?
Yeah, I mean, from primary sources, yeah. So, I mean, we have different, the reliability test. So we can do that. So rather than, hands-off approach for collecting data, just to send out the questionnaire. So we have to, target it. I'm not saying A to B or A to Z, but we have to make sure that we have good responses across the board. So that way, the data will be sort of representative. So using whatever the software to generate hypothetical data, yes, you have absolute. I mean, you have clearly articulated. So I know a PhD student, and within no time, generated data using one of the software. I don't know what is that. And then there is a lack of demographic analysis because it's not done from primary sources, and you start wrong footing. Actually, that's not something hypothetical, and then they use the data to generate. The results to generate data, and of course they already use the Chat GPT for literature review, framework, hypothesis, questionnaire in no time.
They'll backtrack the data to find out.
That's what I'm saying.
Backtrack the primary data, change it so that the analysis comes as per the research objective.
Exactly, that's what they did. They did it. I mean, they developed a sort of theoretical framework. Yes. Because it's not coming as per the results. That's correct. Yeah, they looked at the final results, whether they come, logically correct. If it is not, then it generates a new set of data and then make sure. Thank you, Professor Santanu. I mean, I did not know this one, and when I talked to a few PhD students, I came to know all those things. I was so surprised that you can, have the results and then generate data, like a reverse engineering. Reverse engineering. I mean, it's okay, asking to develop a conceptual model, hypothesis, even questionnaire. It's okay, and then structural equation modeling and so on. Yes, but if you ask, so what is the final? I mean, let's look at as a PhD student, whether the PhD student really, understand developing a model and a hypothesis and a questionnaire. And when you read those questionnaire, they are very much in alignment with the conceptual framework. So why we have to, okay, I don't want to use Chat GPT, I just to do it myself. So that is not going to help much. But
20 generative AI, which is relevant in the market, which is specialized to specific purpose. Some is only doing LR, some is only doing analysis, some is only doing literature review. So specific GPTs.
Yes, I have come across, Professor. Yes, that's correct. But one thing, they can use, in my view, they can use all the tools, but they should read, understand, synthesize, so that they can defend what is in their thesis or what they have in their manuscripts. Otherwise, it will be just, they don't know what they have written in their thesis or in their manuscripts. So that is very important. Understanding, reading of what the outcome of Chat GPT or other 20.
Sir, another problem is that when you frame a questionnaire, there are certain factors which are repetitive in the questionnaires. For example, when you do a reliability checking, suppose you're doing EFA and then you're doing for CFA. So when you're doing the factor analysis or exploratory factor analysis, your results and finding is coming as per what you want. But when you do confirmatory factor analysis, and that shows that there need to be some changes in your questionnaire because the validity checking and the responses that you have got through EFA is not satisfactory in case of CFA. In some cases, the researcher are using the structural equation modeling or they're using MOS to create a model. So basically, how to address this problem?
Yeah, so that's why we have to understand what we have done in our conceptual framework or theoretical framework, and also the hypothesis. We have to, rather than asking the chat GPT to develop hypotheses, I think we should develop the conceptual framework, including the input, output, the moderating, mediating variables, whether they are logically correct. Then we can ask chat GPT and even hypotheses based on that. So we can come up, if you ask chat GPT develop 20 hypotheses, it will develop. But we don't need to 20 there will be a duplication among hypotheses. So maybe 4 or 5. So that we had to come up with that and then ask chat GPT, are they okay? So that's what I would do. And yes, questionnaire. And the questionnaire, once again, we had to go through one by one, and underneath of each of the hypotheses, and also the relationship between independent, dependent variables, moderating, mediating variables, and so on. Yeah, so we have to keep it simple. I'm not saying very simple, but at the same time, the individual conducting the research should understand A to Z. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. They may get their PhD or papers published, but I don't think that is going to contribute to advancing, the individual first and the theory and practice.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, everyone. It was truly an enlightening session, and we can take forward the discussions maybe in another
tomorrow.
session.
We have
yes,
we are
tomorrow we
continuing.
have the continuation of this workshop. We can take the discussions forward in that workshop too. Thank you, Professor Gunasekharan.
We extend our heartfelt gratitude to you, sir, for your insightful session on mastering the art of publishing. Your words truly helped us understand the finer nitty-gritties of research writing, especially the importance of attention to detail. Whether it is avoiding outdated 10-year-old article, ensuring the right title length, or eliminating typological errors, you have beautifully emphasized how conferences like these serve as valuable platforms for scholars to connect, refine their work in progress papers, and engage with others like you, enriching their own experiences.
Part 1 of this workshop concludes today. The workshop will resume tomorrow, 27th of December 2025, with Part 2 scheduled from 2:30 p.m. onwards in room number 301, where Professor Gunasekharan will further elaborate on advanced strategies and insights into academic publishing. With heartfelt gratitude to our speaker, esteemed guests, and our audience, we now formally conclude this session. I request the audience remain seated until the dignitaries on the stage leave the auditorium.